Alexei Petrov, a 58-year-old archivist, was reviewing old building plans in the dusty basement of the Sverdlovsk city administration. It was the end of May in the year 2024, a dreary morning with dim light filtering through the small basement window. The musty smell of mold and old paper hung in the air. He was searching for the original reconstruction plans of the train station. He was looking for documents, needing to verify the integrity of the old building's supporting structures. His work was monotonous, but he was meticulous and methodical. He knew every detail was important. As he moved heavy stacks of paper, he stumbled upon something completely unexpected: an old newspaper bundle. The bundle was hidden behind a plywood panel that was nailed to the stone wall. It looked like a hiding place. At first, he thought it was just trash, maybe an old newspaper or someone's forgotten belongings. He unwrapped it. Then, Alexei saw something completely different, something that made his heart skip a beat. They were train tickets, several of them. The tickets were old and worn. Each ticket had a name on it, and each ticket had a dried, dark stain. The stain looked like old dirt, but it wasn't dirt. What he found had been lying there for 39 years. The tickets were in excellent condition. Only the stains on them were ominous. The names on the tickets belonged to 8 teenagers who had disappeared in 1985. It was one of the most mysterious cases in the city's history. The tickets were for a train they never boarded. This discovery forever changed a 39-year-old mystery, a mystery that had haunted the residents of Sverdlovsk. Alexei Petrov had no idea that this ordinary morning would become the most unsettling day of his life. What was about to be found had remained hidden for 39 years. Within minutes, a mystery spanning decades would finally be solved. Sverdlovsk would never be the same after this discovery. But to fully understand the gravity of this discovery, we must go back in time to a harsh autumn in 1985. Sverdlovsk was enveloped in a cold wind. The city was preparing for the onset of winter, full of hopes and expectations, but also hidden dangers. A group of 8 teenagers gathered at the old railway station. The station had been built before the war, full of heavy memories, and permeated with the smell of coal and the railway. They were 17 years old, had just finished school, and were full of plans for the future. They were confident in their future. Their names were Sergei, Ivan, Victor, Nikolai, Anna, Elena, Svetlana, and Maria. Each of them was an individual. Sergei was the leader, intelligent and responsible. Anna was a dreamer who wanted to become an actress. Elena was quiet but very smart. Maria was brave and the life of the party. They had been friends since childhood, inseparable. They laughed and chatted on the platform, talking about their plans, their dreams, and their friendship. They waved to their parents, who had come to see them off. The train was scheduled to arrive at 23:45, but it was late, a common occurrence. The parents told them not to worry. They would wait. They stood on the platform, waiting for the train. The train was scheduled to arrive at 23:45, but it didn't arrive until midnight. The delay was due to a technical malfunction. The parents started to get nervous. They noticed that their children hadn't appeared on the platform. They started looking for them, going inside the station building, checking the waiting rooms and searching the snack bar. The teenagers were nowhere to be found. The tickets were in their pockets. They couldn't have left without the tickets. At first, the parents thought the teenagers were just hiding, playing some kind of childish prank. But it wasn't a prank. The search began immediately, first throughout the station, then throughout the city. The police were called. They searched every corner, every train car, every dark corridor. No signs, nothing. 8 teenagers had simply vanished without a trace. Their disappearance became national news. There were witnesses at the station, but no one had seen anything. They had simply disappeared. Maria's father, Mikhail, was a police officer. He took the case into his own hands, obsessed with the search. He interrogated all the station employees, passengers, and vendors, meticulously searching for every detail, but he found nothing. The city was in shock. It was a tragedy. 8 young lives simply vanished into thin air. Soon, hope began to fade. The case was closed, declared unsolved. Mikhail retired, but he never stopped searching. He believed the truth was out there. He couldn't give up. He couldn't abandon his child. He knew the story wasn't over. Years and decades passed. The mystery of the teenager's disappearance became an urban legend, living in the hearts of the parents. They never gave up. They continued to search, printing leaflets and questioning people, but all in vain. No one could help them. The case was closed, declared unsolved. Mikhail, Maria's father, had retired, but he never stopped searching. He believed the truth was out there. He knew their children couldn't have simply disappeared. But what really happened? The truth was hidden behind the station walls. Only a few people knew the secret, including the station master, Igor Demyanov. He was 50 years old at the time, a man of the old school, dedicated to his work and his secrets. He knew the truth, but he kept it hidden. The motive was simple: reputation and money. The station was in poor condition and needed repairs, but Demyanov was against it. He wanted to avoid the costs. He found a way to get money from the government, using his connections and acquaintances. He created a secret storage, a storage for valuables, for contraband, and for himself. He was part of a network, a black market network. That night, the teenagers accidentally stumbled upon this storage. They were looking for a secluded place to play hide and seek and found a secret passage leading to the basement. There, they found contraband, something very valuable, something that could expose Demyanov and his accomplices. Demyanov and his accomplices noticed them and realized their secret was out. They had to act quickly and ruthlessly. The teenagers were cornered, forced into silence. Demyanov didn't want to hurt anyone. He just wanted to hide the truth. He was a ruthless man. He understood they couldn't be allowed to leave. He locked them up, locked them in the basement. He promised he would free them. He just wanted them to be quiet just for a few hours, then he would let them go. But he didn't let them go. It was the beginning of a terrible crime. The tickets were proof that they had been there. He took the tickets from the teenagers and hid them in the wall of the basement. He wanted to hide all traces. This was the only evidence. He didn't want to leave any clues. No one should know the truth. No one should know what happened. But it was much worse than he thought. Demyanov didn't know that his accomplice, Leonid, was a train engineer who had his own plan. He was an unstable man, afraid of being found out, afraid of being exposed. He wanted to get rid of them forever. Let's return to 2024. Alexei Petrov held those tickets in his hands, feeling a chill. It wasn't just an old discovery. It was something more. The tickets had names on them. Anna, Elena, Svetlana, Maria, Sergei, Ivan, Victor, Nikolai. He knew those names. Everyone in the city knew them. They were the names of the missing teenagers. Alexei immediately called the police, and then he thought of Mikhail, the father of one of the teenagers. He was obsessed with this case, a legend, a hero. Alexei found his number and called. Mikhail was an elderly man, 81 years old, and ill, but his mind was sharp. Mikhail came to the station, saw the tickets, and saw the stains. He felt it, the truth. He immediately understood it wasn't just dirt. It was something else, something that made his heart clench. It was tears. The tickets were soaked in tears, tears of despair, tears of fear. Mikhail understood his daughter had been there, alive, but only for a moment. And then she was gone. He held the tickets in his hands, feeling pain, fear, and hope, hoping he would find answers. Mikhail began the investigation, working with Alexei and the new investigators. They found old plans of the station, the secret passage, the same passage the teenagers had found. It was hidden behind an old door. They went inside. It was dark and very cold. They saw a room. The room was empty, but there were scratches on the floor. The investigators noticed writing on the walls, the names of the teenagers. They were written in charcoal or something else. Someone had been here, someone had been locked up here, and they wanted to be found, but they never were. At that time, someone threatened them, someone forced them to be quiet, someone made them wait. Mikhail felt he was close to solving the mystery. He knew Demyanov was alive, an old man living in a small house on the outskirts of the city. Mikhail went to him wanting answers. He didn't want to leave without them. He was ready for anything. He was ready to know the truth, the whole truth, even if it was terrible. Mikhail entered the house and saw Demyanov. Demyanov was ill and very old, lying on his bed. He recognized Mikhail immediately. He knew this day had come, the day he had to tell the truth. He began to speak, his voice weak, but his words were heavy. He told everything. That evening, the teenagers had indeed found his hiding place. They found contraband, not gold or money, but documents that exposed Demyanov. He was selling state secrets, secrets that could ruin his career, his life. He couldn't allow that to happen. He cornered them and locked them in the basement, promising to release them. He just wanted to take the documents. He thought he could let them go. He thought they would be quiet, but they refused. They wanted to tell the truth. They wanted to expose him, and he realized he couldn't risk it. He couldn't let them go. He came up with a plan. He called his accomplices. They came and were supposed to take the teenagers out of the city, making them disappear forever. They were supposed to take them to another place, another city, where no one would look for them. But something went wrong. Something went completely wrong. Demyanov said his accomplice, Leonid, the train engineer, was a psychopath, unstable and scared that they would be found out, that they would be exposed. He wanted to get rid of them forever. He didn't want to leave any traces. Demyanov didn't know about this. He was sure the teenagers were alive. He thought they were being held somewhere else in another city. He thought he had saved them. He just wanted to silence them, but he didn't know he had doomed them. Leonid took them to an old station, a station outside the city. He forced them to write their names on the tickets. It was his twisted sense of humor. He wanted them to be found, but not in the city. He wanted them to be found somewhere far away, in another place. He led them to an old tunnel. The tunnel was abandoned and blocked. He was sure no one would find them there. He locked them up, locked them there, and left them without food, without water. He left them there to die. He thought it would be the perfect crime. He thought no one would ever know. Demyanov finished his story, feeling guilt and regret. He admitted he was guilty, but he didn't know they hadn't left. He thought they were alive somewhere in another country, in another city. He thought he had saved them. He just wanted to silence them, but he didn't know he had doomed them. The truth came out, terrible, but it was the truth. Mikhail and the investigators went to the abandoned tunnel. The tunnel was old and closed off. They found it. They found the entrance. They found the place where the teenagers had been left to die. They found traces of struggle, traces of despair. They found remains, 8 remains. They were nearby, near the tunnel. They were covered with old blankets. They were found after 39 years, after long years of silence. Each family received their remains. They were able to hold funerals. They were finally able to mourn their children. It was difficult, but it was necessary. They finally found peace, peace they had been searching for 39 years. Demyanov was arrested. He confessed to everything, but his accomplice, Leonid, was dead. He had died many years ago. He never faced punishment, but Demyanov did. He was convicted and found guilty of conspiracy and kidnapping. He received a life sentence. The families received answers, the city received answers. The mystery was solved, but it left deep scars, scars on hearts, scars on souls. The station was demolished, and a new one was built in its place. But the memory remained, the memory of the 8 teenagers who never boarded their train. But there was one moment of hope. On the tickets. There were inscriptions on the tickets, made with charcoal. They were written by the teenagers. They were messages, messages for their families, messages of love, messages of hope, messages of forgiveness, and it was the last thing they left for their parents. Years passed after that. The families found peace. They visited the graves, they talked to them, they told them about their lives, they told them about their children, they told them about what they remembered, and they would never forget. It was a tragedy, but it was also a story of resilience, a story of hope, a story of how the truth always finds its way, even after decades, even if it's hidden behind walls or in dark tunnels. Mikhail spent the rest of his life telling this story. He wanted no one to forget what happened, and no one to forget how important it is to know the truth. The story stays with us. It stays in our hearts. It reminds us that some secrets are too heavy to keep, and some mysteries must be solved, no matter how long it takes.